I'm really excited for you guys to meet Glenn Phillips, founder and CEO of Lake Homes Realty, the nation's largest lake-focused real estate brokerage, who was listed in the Inc. 5000 in both 2017 and 2018. And it's because he doesn't stick to one state. Okay, this guy, he operates in 26 different states. And I hear you just launched 9, so congratulations. You just launched our 6 or 9 new ones in 2019?
It's in that list.
Yeah. So all you gotta do is go to his website. You can see all the states that he's in. You can read about him, read his blog. He's got some really smart thoughts on the industry that really get your brain thinking in some different ways, which I always appreciate. And that's also why he's probably been asked to speak at a lot of cool places. So NAR, Inman, RISO, a whole bunch of different places have asked him to come speak and educate and provide some of these different thoughts and beliefs about the industry and where it has been, where it's going, and why. He's also been featured on Realtor.com, Mashable, Wall Street Journal, which is freaking amazing, Entrepreneur, and many more. And prior to Lake Homes Realty, he founded and led Forte Incorporated, which is a custom software and data systems firm. So one of the reasons why I think he is doing so well in real estate is because his background comes from data and it comes from software, and as I'm starting to see that trend happen in the industry. The firm was actually recognized as Microsoft's International Partner of the Year in Data Management Systems. Excellence is a habit. Okay, Glenn graduated from Auburn University in computer engineering. He's the author of the book, so check this one out, Nerd to English. I love that title, Nerd to English. I'm all about cool nerds in our organization. Your everyday guide to translating your business, your messages, and your life. He and his wife Doris run their business together, which is definitely something that we have in common together. I think that's super cool, and I think it's a superpower. Some investors are like, "You have a business with your wife?" I'm like, "Yes, that's a superpower of ours."
1 and 1 is 12.
Oh,
15,
totally,
30.
totally. And at the end of the day, his goal is to be the best resource for lake real estate for both buyers and for sellers. And my goal right now is to suck as much information out of him as possible so you guys can learn in the next 20 minutes a whole bunch about real estate from Glenn. So Glenn, thank you so much for being a part of Real Estate
Glad
Moguls podcast and YouTube show. All right, so my first question to help everyone kind of get to know you is why did you start? Because you started in the data and development software. So why did you start Lake Homes Realty, and why did you build it the way that you've built it?
It was originally going to be sort of a Zillow for lakes, and the business model wasn't jiving. Investors actually came to me and to Doris, not because we were married, they knew us separately, knew our background. Nerd, entrepreneur, we'd done angel investing, so we're used to vetting businesses, to get some guidance. Doris' title insurance, real estate closings, with some really innovative software. Yeah. She knew a guy who built some. And so they asked us to look at it, and we said, this kind of got a couple of fatal flaws. You could fix them by adding a brokerage. It may not be a great idea. So they came back later and said, don't know where you're at in your lives. We each had our own business. So we actually weren't looking for a gig. But we looked at it and said, there could be an unfair advantage here, which is really rare. If you watch Shark Tank, there are a lot of Me Too companies there. They don't have anything that could be defendable. So they asked us to run it, so we spent 15 months trying to build a model, analyzing why isn't Silicon Valley wiped out realtors yet? Why is it for sale by owner, which is, everybody knows how to do it, so why is flat fee, reduced commission? What are the companies like EXP and Redfin, which this was in 2011, 22, where are they going? We studied all that and kept coming back to this should work. And so when you can find a business that can have an unfair advantage and have scale and grow in size, it's almost incumbent, you got to go do it.
So tell me more about the unfair advantage that you think that you have as a brokerage.
Well, one of the things, and this isn't a knock on the big companies, we study them, we admire a lot of what they do, so this is not a negative, but we felt they were not in the real estate business, they're in the real estate agent business. And so, if you're in an office with 50 agents and they bring in 20 more, did that really help the buyers? Did it really help the sellers? Did it help the agents who are already there? And did it really help the 20 that were there? Probably none of those things. But we also knew that tech could evolve to the point that the day of brick and mortar may not come to a complete end, but it's not as necessary. The office is there, used to be there because that's where the phone rang, where they kept the keys, where they then kept the MLS book. Well, none of that stuff needs to be there. So now it's a place to recruit. It's an agent recruiting center, not necessarily a consumer serving. And we said, let's get rid of that inefficiency, the overhead, and spend that on marketing and tech. And we also said, let's start in the niche of lake, where the buyer is typically even more remote. We have lakes with hundreds of miles of shoreline and little curvy roads. It's hard to just drive around on Sunday and look at lake homes. So the web was uniquely suited. We have buyers that they know they want to be at this lake. We have buyers that are from other states. We'll see the emails and the web requests come through for information about properties. Hey, I'm in Connecticut. We're going to retire in a couple of years, and we're looking in South Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas. And we're really the only resource for that. So we have 75, 80,000 properties online at any given time, pulled from 100 MLSs. So we're aggregating that. So that between our public facing and we built that private back office software to manage all this with one team, we're getting economy of scale on several things. And that's hard to reproduce. The big guys, the brick and mortar guys, like I said, they do a lot of training. There's great culture in these environments. They help people, but they can't convert to what we're doing. If they attempt to move their business model, most of their agents would, even if 20% of the agents get scared, get uncertainty, and leave and go to another still traditionally out of business. So they're a little boxed in. They'll have to ride this.
Okay. Now, you've talked a lot about being a tech-enabled brokerage. So what do you think makes you tech-enabled, and what does that mean to you?
Well, our website's really a database, a data system that aggregates data and can be searched in a way that is pretty simplistic, but making that data unique and fit together, because we have data that doesn't know much about the lake. The data is very different from data system to data system. So we have to aggregate, massage that, integrate it with other things, like the geographic boundaries of the lakes. That is a little of we're not just trying to draw a circle. Is this house on the water? Is it off the water? That's actually a hard thing to answer in some parts of the country. And so we can drive traffic with our website because the consumers even self-selected. So we'll have about 4 million U.S. adults will use the website, and I'm a big nerd, so our bounce rate's really, really low, and these people spend 10, 12 minutes a visit, even counting the people that bounce. So they really are using it, and we study that. But then we teach our agents to take this data, for instance, to go get listings. So when they go to a listing, they can leverage this data in a way the consumer can expect. So say, hey, Grant, you're wanting to sell your house, and you go, yeah, everybody says they're going to put on Zillow and the MLS and all these things and postcards and open houses. And our agents go, absolutely, we can do all that, but we're also going to feature you on lakehomes.com. And we know these buyers better than anybody. In fact, I can tell you how many people from Chicago were shopping on this lake last month. I'll show you. Here's the report. I can tell you how many were down in Connecticut, or how many people were from this part of Texas. I can show you, and I can tell you how we know these are good visits, not just crap. And so we can also have a lake market report. So the people looking to buy at this lake may be buying at several lakes. So when you price your home, you don't just need to price it comparable to your homes in your market. What about the lakes that are similar to it in other parts of the country? The guy in Connecticut who doesn't care which lake he goes to is now going to start looking at which one's the best value, not the cheapest, but wow, I can get a lot more house for the same money if I go over here. And you're competing with that guy, and the local agent that doesn't have our resources will never know it.
What have you found are some of the things you've done to the website and to the platform that have really boosted views, time on site, pages, SEO, stuff like that?
There's some little things, and we're actually in the middle of a complete rewrite. Candidly, our interface is a little dated, which shows, one of our investors, I said, our consumers, when we meet with them, like at boat shows and things, oh, it's so easy to use. And I said, we got a pretty good site. And one of our investors is a really smart guy. I said, well, it's just because the others are so bad at this. I said, fair enough. So we're investing a lot of money. But that said, there's some fundamentals that can kind of move the needle. One of them is a lake market, when we don't have an agent there yet, there's information. But putting an agent there, a little bit about them and a face, without overriding everything, we get more engagement. So people really want to connect with people. So the people part, I know with your background, this is it. And we've helped our agents say, don't just put all your initials in your real estate stuff. They want to know a little bit about you. They want to connect. So if yours is generic and bland and they don't know anything about you, even if you mention a spouse and you have 2 kids, several of our agents, we went through and massaged all their bios, their social media bios, and changed it. And they came back and were stunned. They said, these people showed up from out of state, and they were like, hey, I'm so glad to meet you. We love horses too. Or, hey, I didn't know you went to so-and-so at school. My son went there. Yeah. And those people engagement things, that sounds like a non-tech thing, but using tech
to be more human.
Be more human.
I love that. I mean, that's what tech was for.
Yeah.
Use tech to be more human, and this humanizing element. Some realtors are afraid of like being vulnerable and dehumanizing themselves and talking about some of their personal life. I'm like, no, this is what people want.
We're big fans of Brene Brown and a lot of those folks, and how we talk about to be wholehearted requires to be vulnerable, which is really hard. But once you do it, it's so like, wow, now I'm almost, a burden's been relieved.
You're a fear of criticism, but once you break that, yeah, you start seeing the benefits of it. Okay, so now when you think about the future tech, so one, you're redeveloping the user experience and the design of the website. Is there any new technology that you're implementing right now or want to implement in the future because you know it's going to be beneficial for your consumers and for your agents and your brokers?
We're, without tipping some of our hand, we're collecting a lot of data that's not on our website. So there are some ways we already have designed. We're probably even 3 years out from doing this, the amount of data we need to collect and the algorithms we need to build. But we want to do a better job of matching what somebody wants in a home with those markets and homes. And they, even in a given city, or in our case a lake, or it could be at a beach, they're not consistent. This area over here may be quieter, and this over here may be louder, or this is a rural quiet lake, and this is an urban lake. They have different experiences, and we actually are developing things so that the consumer, when they particularly buying a product where they're not having to be driven there by a job or family and discretionary, we want to be able to help them match up because they want to know. A gentleman asked me one day, hey Glenn, there's a business function that's not real estate. Hey Glenn, we're thinking about buying a lake home, and we've never bought one. What's the best lake? And I said an answer was kind of snarky, but it turned out it was a really good answer. I said, well, that's kind of like asking me what's the best woman. It's kind of a personal choice. And if you don't know which lake, you need to date a few. Don't just go look. You need go spend a little time. Stay with friends. Lease a home if you're not in a rush. Yeah. Go figure it out. Go find out what's best for you.
Do you guys have a rental side of your business as well for that?
We don't think there's a lot of money in that unless you do it on a really big scale.
Short term there isn't.
We decided we've got a couple of pockets where agents came in and they had a rental business, but the overhead is, the transactions are much harder. The overhead, by the time the money it doesn't interest us.
What about getting into short-term rentals? Because there's big money in short-term rentals, like as an investor. Have you thought about that at all?
We're even less interested in that. And here's the challenge we have in this kind of market is cleaning. Besides the attention it takes 24/7, those two things. But if you have an 8-bedroom, 6-bath lake house, you can't get that flipped in the 2 hours on a weekend of it turning over.
Yeah, it'll take a day to clean.
Yeah, and the houses may be 30 minutes apart or an hour apart. I mean, you could see a house across a lake, but it still may take 45 minutes to drive there between the boats and between the bridges and how far to go across.
Yeah, I know. Whistler's kind of like that, where I was just there on the Christmas holidays, and they have a few of these like chalets and big houses for people to rent, and they do longer. Yes, they don't do like night or weekend, but they'll do month or season. So
our experience, if somebody did want to do this, is if you're going to do rental, short-term rental, you need to you need to be able to service 24/7 for any problem, and you need to get the cleanings. Basically, you need to do it big or not bother, unless you're just renting the one right next to you. Right. Like I'm just renting this house next door, but if you want to do it as a business, you need to go big or go home.
Got it. I love that phrase. Okay, so let's let me go into. So you have a really great article about Fizzbuzz on your blog, and talks about like why hasn't Fizzbuzz gone up? The percentage of people who are attempting, I think, is going up. The number of people who actually do it is percentage-wise lower.
Yes.
It's lower than ever before. The numbers, I think, may be higher because of the sheer population stuff, but the percentage is lower. And you talk about one of the main reasons why is, the seller. You're probably better at this. Why don't you explain why, and then I'll kind of come back with a thought about the future and what that might change to it. So why do you think that Fizzbuzz haven't gone up?
Yeah, there's a host of, in addition to the fact, the traditional things everybody talks about, can they price it appropriately, and how do you show the house that people don't want to tell the owner what's wrong with their house, and they tend to take it very personal. But one thing I don't see written about is what I call an expectancy gap. So I'm selling my house, and unless I'm just crotchety and I don't want to just deal with realtors on principle, I'm thinking, well, I'm going to sell it myself and I get to keep that money, the commission money, which fundamentally makes sense from that perspective. But buyers think, well, if I'm going to look at for sale by owner and there's not a professional involved, and if it's for sale by owner, something's probably up. So they expect a deal. So both parties expect that what would normally be the commission. They both think it's theirs. So if they're already $20,000 apart on what they think the house is worth, now they're a commission part added, and there's no one to negotiate the difference between that. So while it is true, homes listed with real estate agents sell for more money, part of this is due to the effort of the agents and marketing exposure. But there's a difference. Surely, if I'm selling my house by myself, I give up and I get you to list it, immediately the buyer and seller have closed the price expectancy gap. They're both now thinking closer in price, and now as the agent, you can help negotiate that gap.
Mm-hmm. So up until this point, and even to this day, AI, machine learning, and effective valuation, digital valuation methods are non-existent. The Zestimate is garbage. Yeah. No one's come up with it. But the future, I think, is bright for that. Eventually, with AI and machine learning to be able to effectively value homes, do you think people will do you think that will still be in place? Because this is sociology versus data.
Yes.
Do you think that buyer and seller will go, Google now has this amazing valuation tool, it's super accurate, it's got AI machine learning in it, and everyone just trusts that price, and now the buyer and the seller just don't need an agent anymore for that purpose? I know they need it for other things, but for the purpose of pricing a home, now that expectancy gap goes away with AI and machine learning. Do you think that's the case or no?
I think that will go away, but there are so many other pieces. One of the other challenges is the number of entities involved in making a deal happen. Who's going to lead the circus? AI may not lead that. So to make that happen, technology also has to solve where we don't need appraisals because the AI has gotten so good. We still have to do a home inspection unless our houses are so smart they tell you what's wrong. That's even further out. Theoretically, it'll get there, but surveyor about where is the land? Well, will blockchain tracking of title insurance get there? Yeah, but that's got to happen. All these things have to happen. Title insurance may not even be needed if we have complete confidence in property ownership and where the lot is and that there's no encroachments. So those things can happen, but it's not just the valuation piece. So you're going to have all these things have to combine. Yeah.
So then, even though I feel like technology will start to continue to take more things away from the agent, which is not a bad thing because it already has been the last 20 years making the people's jobs easier. You talked about earlier the brokerage business. What business are they really in? So when you think about the agent, and the agent's so in fear of new technology doing all this stuff for them, what business do you think they're really in, and why do you think they will still have a future?
Well, we're really in the helping, being the expert as the conduit of the transaction. So I look at it this way. Today, for high-end items, today's consumers, not just houses, they won't be left alone to begin with. We're just saturated with it. They want data, 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 and then when they're ready for the purchase, they want the expert to help them navigate it. I mean, this happens if you think about it in business sales. Private equity, venture capital, mergers, acquisitions. There's still a role for that investment banker to help coordinate the deals and get it all aligned. Somebody needs to coordinate it. You can't have two people yanking on the steering wheel. You need to have somebody drive that into the solution.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's a people thing too.
So I want you to think about, we have investors as our audience who are looking into the real estate property tech space. It's such a big growing space. And I sometimes look at them and I'm like, why did you invest in that? That is a donkey. And there are some winners over here. So if you were to talk to an investor and say, here's what I believe are some of the winners and some of the losers, some of the great places to invest your money and some of the not so great, what would you have to say to them?
I think our own business, where nothing against the folks who started, they kind of had the right ideas, they just hadn't put the pieces together. But when we were asked first look at business when it's at the stage it was in, we're like, if they had come to us for a 20-minute meeting before they even started, we'd have saved them a lot of money and a lot of time. Now, we wouldn't necessarily have gotten them on the path we ended up, but we would have told them, When we met with them the first time before we got the car, we said it's got 2 fatal flaws. I mean, we knew that quick. We hadn't even gotten the car, and it was each of us knew, Doris and I each both had the same too. It was that clear to somebody who had a lot of experience in some aspects of the real estate. The other part is to keep in mind that this is a 2-player game. And this is where I think the tech investors are missing, is they keep thinking, we're just going to figure out this way to solve it by ourselves. Well, real estate's the only industry where that you make your money working with your direct competitor. It means there's 2 sides to every deal, like a baseball game, like Moneyball. And so you can't just come in and say, well, we're going to change the rules of baseball because we've got a different way to play baseball. And the rest of the industry, because no one's dominant enough, will go, and then you die on the vine eventually. Because if you disincent everybody else, which is always a majority, everybody else combined, if you disincent them to play ball with you, they will do what you disincent them to do. They will ignore you and you'll dry up. So we actually were very focused of when we came into this, we were going to be very traditional. We use local contracts. We want our agents to use their local folks. We're going to have people who live there and they're experts and they're already part of that community, or they've moved there, and we teach them how to really become social and engage and become a friend. But what we don't do is try to come in and go, we're going to break everything you people here are doing. We're full service, we're full commission, and so that part, we're there to play ball like the Oakland A's did of, we're just going to rebuild our team differently, and we're going to do other things to give us an advantage. So if you're going to invest in tech, you got to figure out how the other things. That doesn't necessarily mean better at being the real estate agent business. Our choice was, how do we become better at aligning? How do we help the buyer, the seller, and our agents and be aligned? I gave the analogy of bringing more agents. Well, by combining our data, we take homes that could be very hard to sell and give them exposure that they don't otherwise get, because the consumer wants our type of property, or it could be a bigger type of tech, but however you want to do it, you add convenience. That's our one-word test. We add convenience. So if you're buying property, beyond question, in the markets we're in, we're the easiest way to find what we sell. Just, it's already kind of pre-filtered for them. So that helps those buyers. So sellers, buyers, they both have an advantage. And then we have the agents who are specialized, not just anybody and everybody. We think of them as special forces, not the infantry, who are there to take care of that buyer and seller. So our buyers, sellers, and agents are all incented for the same outcome. And as a brokerage, my job, we actually don't charge fees. Our job is to help our agents be more productive. So if they've been with us for 2 years, depending on where they were in their market, what size they were, they should increase their transaction volume anywhere from 50 to 300%.
Okay, all right. So one more question, because we have some brokers as well. You build a great business. If you were to give them some advice on how to build a better brokerage, what comes to mind?
Well, I think you've got to not just buy shortcuts. You've got to invest heavily in the right people. The right people are a big deal. You take longer. It applies just like employees about the slow to hire, quick to fire. We spend a lot of money on culture and engagement because we need to add value to that part of everyone's life as well. And what are we doing here? But to build that brokerage, I think we have the advantage of we committed to go on scale. If you're building a local brokerage, the folks that I see as I've traveled around the country who are knocking it out of the park are methodical. They know their numbers. They know their business numbers. They don't just do it all by feel. If they don't know their numbers, it's not their thing, to get somebody to help them. So know your market, know your numbers, know what investments get you an ROI, even if it's over a long period of time. So that sounds elementary, but we see this missed over and over. We see most people get in the brokerage, they were an agent, they saw what kind of split their brokerage got. Even when we're meeting people and maybe they're thinking of joining us, they say, well, I don't know if I want to join you or I want to start a brokerage. I'm like, well, so do you want to sell houses or manage people? What do you mean? Well, you get in the brokerage business, you're going to have agents, and who's going to do the back office? Well, I can hire somebody. It's still your responsibility. And I think I've probably scared a few people away from starting a brokerage, but that was probably good for them. If they could answer, we're the approach of, if our business idea survives all the no's, we didn't go out looking for a yes. We spent 15 months with our business model. We said we want to get it vetted by people that know the real estate industry and those that don't, and we'll get yeses, nos, and maybes, and then we'll evaluate it. We actually kept looking because we got maybes and we got yeses, and not one person told us not to do it, which was very odd. But we didn't go searching for, oh, look at how beautiful our business is. We went looking for, tell us what's wrong. Are we full of crap? Are we drinking our own Kool-Aid? So if you want to build a brokerage, figure out why it's going to be right. Go talk to people that are not your friends and family and say, here's my business idea, not my real estate idea. Here's my business idea. See if it survives.
Right on. Well, I wish we had more time because this guy's got lots of cool stuff and it's great to talk to. So what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Sure. My email address is gphillips@lakehomes.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Glenn Stewart Phillips, Glenn S. Phillips. So I'm not confused with Toad the Wet Sprocket Singer. Yeah. And that's we're on social media.
Very cool.
Thank you
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
That's this episode of Real Estate Moguls, and if we give you one piece of advice, it's clearly just to get in the market. All right, my name is Glenn Phillips, and I'll see you next time.